And there will be manufacturing later on, although it will look not very much like a manufacturing talk for quite some time, I think. Because I always like thinking about stuff in, there's a great quote from Eliel Saarinen, a designer, like an architect. He talks about thinking about things in the greater context than the one that you're kind of operating in. So you design a chair in a room, you design a room in a building, you design a building in a neighbourhood in a city plan. So I think what the context is that we're kind of doing, and there's loads of kind of crazy stuff happening at the moment. So we've got, like Facebook affecting elections and privacy and advertising stuff. The tech world's all of it, worrying about ethics and things. And do people worry that all of our jobs are going to disappear because robots and machine learning are going to take it all over? And hopefully this is showing that maybe it won't all quite go to plan, but there's a lot of concern about that and what we're going to do for jobs and basic income and that kind of thing. And I mean, world politics. Brexit, inequality, Trump, fascism, it's all just a bit crazy out there, and who knows what's going to happen and whether we're all going to still be here. And a lot of that kind of is, I think, the kind of underlying and kind of background thing that we're not paying enough attention to that we should be, is climate change. And this, Saddleworth Moor, which is very kind of, close and local and happening now, and shows that it's going to happen to us as well as people in other countries. But we're makers, so I think we have a general kind of optimistic approach to things where we feel like we have some agency in the world, and that we can do things about it. And so there are signs of hope. Like this is from a report the RSA did, released just a few days ago, I think, and it's showing the kind of massive rise in people, in companies with no employees. So there's loads of people going self-employed. This isn't just makers. This is just across the board. And lots of that are makers who are making a living, working out how they do stuff, paying their rent and stuff on their own from making what they want to do. And we have new ways of working, like makerspaces. This does Liverpool just up the road, where people can collaborate on things and stuff like that. And we've got the means of production now almost, for a lot of things. I'm sure Luke will talk about how you do things at a bigger scale, where you probably need a bit of capital outlay to go and buy sort of a pick and place line and things like that. But you can do the smaller scale stuff yourself. You're collaborating with a few people. And open source is doing a great job of that kind of sharing stuff, giving us the shoulders of giants to build upon, and letting us kind of collaborate on things and share best practice and learn from each other and kind of build new and bigger things. And it feels to me like it's that time where I need to be the company that I run. I work for myself. My company has not even an employee really, it has one director, which is me, and Publino's maybe an employee, I don't know, he's a little bubble machine. And so I just need to be making a difference and doing the right sort of thing, and heading in trying to make a difference in the way that I can with my business. So one of those things this is a great quote from John Wilshire, which is it's about making things people want, not about marketing to make people want things. So build the stuff that people want to have, not building stuff that you can easily make and then just try and fob it off onto them. And with this sort of climate change and sustainability approach, we don't really want plastics. They're clogging up the oceans. So this is ceramics. This is the dust boxes that the circuit boards went into that I showed at the start. And maybe we need to find ways to do the circular economy better or something. So this is circuit boards for the Ackers Bell product I'm developing at the moment. And this bit here, maybe you can just cut that bit out of the PCB and it'll be a little breakout board for the ESP module that's on it. So if you don't want the Ackers Bell anymore, you can do kind of approaching that with a different way. And so it's looking at kind of, can we do production more locally? So this is just some manufacturer mapping that I did for a project a while back, where we're trying to find the kind of local suppliers so we can build things more locally, have more interesting conversations with the suppliers because you can meet them face to face. But it's tricky. This is the supply chain map for the Ackers Bell that I'm making. And loads of the components we bought from Farnell in Leeds, but actually they all come from China. So it's hard, but we're moving, we need to be moving in the right direction, and aiming for the right kind of thing, the right approach to stuff, and trying to make this kind of small and bigger, we want more indie manufacturers, people who scale up and make lots of things, not massive at the kind of Samsung and Sony level, more at the kind of level that Luke's at. Because the more people have doing that, we can make that be the new normal. There's lots more interesting small companies in the region kind of providing the jobs for us. So, yeah, that's my talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Fantastic. Very inspirational to see the longer-term goals as well as the short-term making. You are at the Ignite Liverpool talks at Makefest, which are happening all afternoon. There are sheets around with the schedule. The theme of this session is manufacturing, and next up we have Luke, who is your still managing director? is managing director of a local business that makes all kinds of interesting electronics, and he'll tell us for 5 minutes, with the slides automatically advancing every 15 seconds to keep him on his toes.
Thank you very much. Hi everyone, my name is Luke Walsh. I'm from a small company based in Speed called Brainboxes. We're an electronics manufacturer, and I'm going to talk to you about going from slightly smaller manufacturing to maybe you could call it medium-sized manufacturing, not big time. So we've been around since 1984, headquarters here in Liverpool. We do our own design, manufacture and technical support. And we've got a sales office in the USA and Japan, and this month was our best month for 18 years. So you have a great idea, you've put in a lot of hard work, and you've got a customer. And so the next question is, okay, how do I take this and make it into something that lots of customers can buy? So you may have put together a prototype. Well, this is one of the prototypes from one of our products. It might have a Raspberry Pi in it and an Arduino, and you might have wired up some LEDs and connected it all together, and you've added some Wi-Fi, and here it is. Nobody's going to buy this, but it's very, very functional and does the job. So you may have found a customer, and you might have done a trial with that customer and proven that your prototype does what you think it should be doing, and the customer might have even given you some feedback to say what you thought was the right thing isn't quite the right thing, you need to change this and modify that, and then finally you get to this, the finished product. So here's the product that is actually the amalgamation of all the bits from that prototype I showed you, and we've added a little bit of a more industrial feel to it, and now it looks like something you can sell to a customer. So your next step is to go from one finished product to many finished products. And so this is the big question everyone has: how do I go from the prototype to the finished product to some form of mass production where I'm getting the same thing every time repeatably? And ultimately this is what we all want. We want to make some nice profit out of it. Maybe we want to have some recognition. Maybe we want to reinvest it to grow our business. And so what you need, or what you think you might need, is manufacturing. So you're going from your small scale to a machine to do it for you. Now, to a lot of people, this is what manufacturing is. This is one of the machines in our workplace. It picks all the components and places them on the PCBs extremely fast. It can place 30,000 components an hour, and all of a sudden this is what people think they need to aim for. But there's a lot of other things that you need in order to make that small piece there actually happen. One of the things you're going to need, there's a lot of variables people don't think about. So if you've got a machine that's placing all these bits on your PCBs, you need to look after your stock. So all of a sudden you've gone from, I want to make a thing, to, oh, I need a system to look after all the parts that I need to put on the thing. And electronics involves a huge amount of manual assembly. People don't appreciate what proportion of it is automated versus what proportion of it is manual. So you need to employ highly skilled people who are able to put the electronics together in a form factor that people need. And then you've got maintenance. So here are the nice shiny machines. They don't work indefinitely 100% of the time. You need people to be able to fix these machines when they break. And it can be extremely expensive to get a replacement part for one of these little things. And then there's not just the machines that run the factory, there's the machines that keep the people happy. And this month we've had a big problem with this machine, our aircon. And my staff are not very pleased about working in 20 degrees while on a production line. So there's not just the machines that run the plant, there's the machines that keep the staff happy. And one of the other machines they really care about is the coffee machine. We've got to make sure that's functional at all times. I think it's done it again. And then you need to think about health and safety. If you've got lots of machines in your environment, there's plenty of opportunities for people to hurt themselves. You need to make sure they're well protected, they know what they're doing, they're a happy workforce. And you also probably want a computer system to oversee this whole operation. So now you're investing in the software that controls the machines and also plans all the products you're going to make and make sure you're sourcing all the products from all the right places at all the right times. And so Once you've got all that together, well, let's think about selling the product in another country. And in that scenario, you need to think about accreditations. Because when you want to sell to, for example, in America, they may say to you, well, you might pass all the European standards, but do you have this American standard that we want you to have as well? And then you need to go away, figure out how to get that accreditation, pay someone to prove that it meets the accreditation, and then you need to pay someone to inspect your factory. And they will come any time during the year. They'll just turn up, and if you don't meet all their requirements, they'll say, nope, we're not giving you that accreditation anymore. You need to go away and fix the following issues. And then, if you want to sell to America, you need to think about import and export duties. So when you buy all your raw materials from China, if you go to a website like this, and you see a price like that, it looks very nice, you need to be very careful about when it comes through customs, what happens, who pays. And then you need to think about insurance. What if your product does something bad to a person in the field? You need to make sure you're covered. Who pays for that harm that it may have caused? And then you need to think about international regulations, particularly batteries. If you want to ship batteries abroad, there's issues. And then you need to think about the label and the box and the manual. And when the customer opens the box, does it look right? Are they getting what they think they're getting? Are they going to be able to plug it in and actually do something useful? Or are they going to open it and think, no, that's no good? Ultimately, you need a great team. And if you don't have a team to control all of these different aspects of your business, you're not going to get anywhere. So everything comes back to the team, and you need people with responsibility for all those different areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luke. That was fantastic. Really good to see local companies like that and have a look inside the factories and see what making is going on in Liverpool. And next up, you are at Ignite Liverpool at Makefest, which is 5-minute lightning talks on themed topics, which are starting every hour through the afternoon. If you have a look, there are sheets around which list the other sessions, so you can see if you're interested in any of the ones later. And ending at 5 o'clock with a session about space, both inner and outer space. And on this manufacturing session, our third talk is Jackie from Liverpool talking about maintenance. Keep in mind, with all the speakers, think of questions to ask, because they're going to form a panel over here after the 3 talks, and you'll be able to ask them questions. So keep in your head any questions. So without further ado, here you are, Jackie.
Well, both those talks have been about making things, and this one's, I'm going to argue that maintaining things should be just as celebrated as making them to start off with. We're going to be doing a conference in September about it. So even at Does Liverpool as a maker, we often start off by buying a whole load of new stuff and starting a new project and making something totally from scratch. That's great fun. We sometimes don't get round to using some of the older things. This is a previous project which has loads of potential still, but at the moment nobody has had time to maintain this. It would be a great thing to have brought along today, and also has a lot of potential for people to work on it. One of the things that people like about maintenance is that once you've had the maintenance done, it's invisible and you shouldn't be able to see that anything's done, which means that people who do maintenance don't get as much credit for it as people who start with new products. Here's a couple of examples. This is a traditional Japanese thing where people have made the repairs visible by coating them with gold leaf, where the cracks were on the vase. And here's an artist called Tom of Holland who makes visible repairs with darning to show where things have been repaired, and sells products with darning on them, like old blankets and things like that. A makerspace like Does Liverpool has a lot of equipment in it that can be used to fix things. For example, laser cutters and 3D printers, and a lot of other tools, traditional tools, and things like sewing machines and things as well, which are very good for maintaining things. Now we've got a bigger space at Does Liverpool, all this stuff is out and people can see it and tend to use it more than they used to use it before. Another facility is that there's a lot of resources online where you can find stuff to do maintenance. So maintenance is a lot more practical to do yourself than maybe it has been in the past. this is on the Thingiverse site. At Does Liverpool, we've got a number of things that make maintenance visible, like using GitHub to keep a list of issues that we have with things, and also Wiki, which points to manuals that people can use to repair things. And here's a couple of repairs that we've done in Does Liverpool. This is a 3D printed button for our Dyson vacuum cleaner, and which you can definitely see is different than the original, but still looks very nice. And these are some shelves we put in, made laser cut for the fridge, which although they are quite different than the originals, people don't tend to notice those. Another important thing about Makerspace is that it can educate people in using tools, in expecting things to be maintained, and in just knowing how to do the maintenance and expecting them to do it themselves. Another thing which other people do, such as Edinburgh Tool Library, is to lend tools out to people. An interesting feature is that the average electric drill gets used for 13 minutes during its lifetime. So it's better to share things like that. When things are being manufactured, it's important that they're made in a way that can be maintained, and that people who are making things should think about that. But also, if they don't do that, then things can be looked at afterwards. We were talking about Internet of Things, which also applies to small manufacturers, and previously people have intended Internet related stuff to have a lifespan of about 10 years. That now people are planning for 3 to 4 years. That stops you wanting to buy things because you know that you're going to end up having to buy new stuff very shortly. It's not able to develop it or anything. So the idea, we're having a festival to recognise the importance of maintenance in terms of how it will be important in the future, and just that people shouldn't have to buy new things if they don't want to. It's actually going to be in London on the 22nd of September, and there'll be a wide variety of aspects of maintenance. And you can go online and buy your tickets now, but even better, we'll be live streaming it to Does Liverpool, and there'll be more details. We've got yet to plan exactly what we're going to do, but we'll be doing a lot of stuff on that as well.
Thank you very much, Jackie. If the three of you could move over to the other seats, because we're going to go on to the panel in a minute. Hello everyone. There are a couple of chairs that are empty at the front, so people standing at the back, if you want to sit down, then there are 2 chairs down here. 3, in fact, and there's one there as well. So do come forward and sit down. This is the Cozy Conference, which is a new talking section of Makefest. And we've just had 3 lightning talks about manufacturing, both like indie manufacturing and its goals, a look into a sort of, well, medium, from my point of view, a small-scale manufacturer in Liverpool and their factory, and talk about maintenance. So that's Adrian, Luke, and Jackie. Have you thought of questions, everyone? Is anyone let's start and ask some questions.
Hi, Alan. There's a question for all 3 of you, really.
Hello, everybody. OLC are about to perform their Makefest theme for 2018 in a Discover Library in a couple of minutes' time.
Very good, very good. So the question is, how can you build ease of maintenance into a product and into sort of manufactured product, and the design, the manufacturing and so on, and what lessons can the maintenance people feed back to the manufacturers to make that easier?
I've got the mic first, I suppose. I guess one of the ways that I'm planning on doing it is through open source and open hardware, and I don't know exactly how much of the product will be open sourced, but I'm anticipating a vast proportion of it will be. So obviously I want my Internet of Things devices to be secure so that nobody else can reprogram them to do something else, but if you get access to the device and take it apart, which the owner will generally be able to do, there'll be ways that you can change the software that's on it so that you can upgrade it and do things to it. And ideally I'd also want to release the files so that people could make their own parts and things for it. So I think there's a good kind of advantage of the open source hardware movement, that they can be kind of pitching. Actually, that's one of the perks of buying an open hardware product, is that you can get access to the designs to be able to kind of change stuff and things like that. But yeah, it's a tricky one if you're not going to be open sourcing the designs. It's always nice when I'm playing with old radios and you take the back off and there's a little circuit diagram just stuck into the back of the, like, it used to be quite commonplace because people would want to repair things, and it's less so these days, but maybe that's replaced with kind of fix-it and things instead. So I don't know if you've got any...
Just to add to that, so I go around to a lot of factories and see their maintenance issues, and what you find is the maintenance people in the factory, they know what all the problems are. They already know, and the issue isn't understanding the problem per se, it's feeding the information back to the manufacturer. And so one of the key ways to do that is to monitor these machines. The manufacturer, it will become absolutely commonplace that all manufacturers will monitor their own machines in the field, and they'll get telemetry sent back to them that will tell them what the key issues are. And no matter how many field lab tests you do to simulate the real world, when you put the machine in the real world, people always use it differently, and you'll never really know how it's used until you monitor it in the field. And so one of the slides there was about one of our customers makes a machine that goes into kitchens, and they discovered all kinds of things about how the machine was really used when they started monitoring it, which influenced their next design iteration. But manufacturers need to appreciate that they don't know everything when they build the product the first time, and they won't know all the uses. So I think it's really important to manufacture something with an open mind that probably people will use it differently to how you expect.
I work in software and in actually maintenance, really. So I think one of the more important things is good documentation. I think that applies to products as well as, so just that you would be able to know what people are trying to do, and that's really important. I think in hardware, to use screws to attach things together rather than glue, so that you're more able to take things to bits, so that you can actually get at things without breaking them. If you're going to use two glue things together, don't glue two separate materials together so that they can't be separated. So that it allows for that you can get them apart or that sort of thing. Try to use standard parts that everybody else uses so that they can be replaced. I don't know.
Thank you. Who else has a question?
Hi, Ewan. I suppose this is a follow-up to Alan's question. I was really intrigued, Jackie, by the picture of the replacement button for the Dyson vacuum. And I suppose my question is, what are the implications from a manufacturing point of view, or a maintenance point of view, if you were to allow people to access the patterns for your parts, to be able to print things? What are the implications for warranties and things like that if you're going to allow people to manufacture their own spares, which seems a great idea to reduce the logistics chain?
Who wants to go first?
I think that warranties and things are actually a good point, and something perhaps we should be discussing when we have this conference in September, because they do stop people from maintaining things themselves, really. I don't think things like Dysons, it's going to matter too much whether you replace the button, especially considering they probably only have a warranty for about 3 years anyway, and actually you can extend the lifespan of a Dyson a lot more by printing some parts or that sort of thing. I don't think it would actually do much harm to the manufacturer in terms of you're not going to build a Dyson from scratch just because you've got access to those parts, because it would take you too long to make all the parts and that sort of thing. but it does stop people replacing them as often, and therefore people wouldn't want you to do that. But maybe they could sell you the file for printing off your own parts and make some money that way. That might be good. Can we begin?
I see a lot of manufacturers trying to get around this by offering a complete service for their product and saying, you don't have to worry about it anymore. We've got it all covered. If there's any issues, we'll know instantly, and we'll come and send you the spare part and install it for you. Which may ultimately they're trying for you not to get you to open their machine, and instead they want to see all the issues that happen so they can make their machine better. So I think that's an interesting approach that a lot of manufacturers take, where they lease you the machine instead of you owning the machine, and then they offer you service over the lifetime. And I think that's a countermeasure almost by a lot of manufacturers.
I'd say that's still a good thing, because the manufacturer is still aiming to extend the lifespan of the machine. So yeah, it stops you doing it, but at least they're not making you buy a new one.
Yeah. Maybe there'll be DRM on 3D designs where they can stream a file to you and you can print it yourself, but you'll never be able to print it again. I don't know.
Yeah, it feels like that'll be about as successful as DRM and MP3 was. So yeah, I mean, I suppose in that case, the Dyson that was bought in 1999, so it's had a pretty good life so far. And there are 3D printed parts on it. Like there's a nozzle that we printed for it as well, which we're now on our second 3D printed nozzle. And that was a more customized shape as well. So there's some advantages being able to design things yourself as well with things and share those designs. And finding them is always going to be the tricky bit, but it's nice that you've got that kind of opportunity, I suppose. Some of it's just a mindset, I guess, like fixing things rather than just throwing them away.
Thank you. The next question's got a T-shirt on that says "Get excited and make things." That sounds like Adrian's response to global politics.
Hello, my name's Alfred. I'm the maker of things, and I've been in maintenance for a very long time, as well as making motor vehicles and electrical initially. I also do a lot of work with repair cafes. I'm wondering how the panel, as manufacturers and as maintenance people, feel about repair cafes extending the life of things way beyond any expectations, and looking into the future, how much access will we have to keep very old modern technology going in the long term? Quite aside from updating software, which is fairly straightforward, but the physical hardware of it all. Thank you.
Who wants to go at that? Repair cafes?
As everybody knows, the theme for Makefest for 2018 is all about horses. There's a performance about to begin in the Discover Library by Walnut Culture, who are going to play a musical theme based on the horse theme performance. Thank you.
Okay, repair cafes, certainly something that's going to be a subject at the thing in September. From my point of view, I don't feel skilled enough to do that sort of thing, and I don't know how many people we've got that does who'd want to do it. Definitely something that it would be really brilliant to do. I feel sort of, I don't know, it's another thing with warranties and stuff, and it's other people's stuff, isn't it? So, but yes, it's a very good idea, and I'd like to know more.
Yeah, all power to you. I think it's a brilliant idea. But one of my best maintenance engineers has a really old Ford Escort, and he loves to keep it in absolute perfect condition. And obviously new cars don't enable you to get into the engine in the same way as old cars. And he grew up with the technology of 20, 30 years ago and had a route to understand the new cars, having worked on all the old cars. I obviously worry today about people being brought up with the newer car and everything is sealed and there's no access to anything. And I think it would be really important for people like yourself to pass those skills on to the next generation of people so that they can understand how to even begin to tackle a problem of repairing something like an engine. think it's really important.
I mean, again, I'm going to echo the repair cafe is an awesome idea, and because it frustrates me at times the amount of stuff that is like knocking around, like all the old Nokia mobile phones. There's so many, like small processor, screen, keypad, radio module, like sat in a little kind of nice convenient case, doing nothing because nobody can get access to the software to update them. I mean, I used to, when I worked writing software for mobile phone operating systems, I have the tools that I needed, the tool chains, the cable to like reflash them. But like all of the phones since like about 2000 have been just flash memory, so you could reprogram them completely. Like, why aren't those little like Nokia 3310s instead of your light switches doing kind of like smart home stuff? Like, it does loads of the stuff that the smart home thing would do. It's totally got the capabilities to do it, but they can't because nobody's got the tools to actually do anything to them. So it becomes kind of junk and landfill. And we need to be just fixing some of that. And maybe some of that's one of the nice things we'll get with the rapid prototyping. Maybe that's a kind of a way for some of the manufacturers to continue to have a revenue stream for some of the older devices. So like the last car when I had a car, my most recent car, was an old like 1993 Lancia with really like curved, so because it was the Integrale with kind of like flared arches and flared, so the composite curves on the wings. And I remember chatting to the garage about if you needed a new wing, and it was 800 quid for a new wing, because the only way to get them, like Lancia stopped making them years ago, the only way to get them was to get like the panel beaters in Birmingham to hand make them. And that was fine when it was like a old like 1960s MGB, because like the tech they had would only let them do kind of curves in one direction. But because the kind of tech of the 80s and 90s let you do kind of fancier presses, you couldn't, like, it was just lots and lots of manual labour to get those kind of like composite curves into it to make another thing, which made it super expensive. And maybe, given that the manufacturers have got digital files often when they've been designing things, maybe there's an opportunity that they can just have a kind of heritage arm. I mean, like Ford and stuff do that kind of thing for some of their old cars at the minute. They'll have like a heritage department that'll sell you all parts. So like, why can't you get old bits for your like Sony telly or something, where like it's going to be tricky for some of it, for the electronics. That's going to be hard. I remember a tale of NASA like trawling around on eBay to try and buy like 1970s transistors and things, because they had to kind of repair the space shuttle. And it's like, well, the space shuttle was built then, and now we can't get these parts anymore because they're all gone end of life. But we need to get them because we need to keep this in the air. And so there'll be bits you can't do with that, but some of it, I guess, maybe 3D printing and some of the sort of like making it easier to do really tiny like one-offs and things will let them do a little tiny batch, which makes it economic. So that might be a nice way for them just to carry on selling parts for things to keep them going.
Thank you. How many questions have we got left? You've got one. You sort of.
Right, this applies to new products and maintenance. And I've kind of been thinking how quickly we're affected by shortages, like recently water and carbon dioxide. And I wonder if there's any particular materials or elements that will start limiting quite soon and quite suddenly what we can produce. Will we all be rooting around the town copes and middens and so on, trying to get certain materials that are essential for new developments?
I don't know anything about our global stocks of tantalum or whatever, but there's loads of, you're right. I mean, are we going to get a point where there's, mining the tip? And maybe one of the things I haven't had any time, I suppose some of this is my longer term sort of like interest that I'd like to have, because we're quite good at working out how to automate putting components onto a PCB and manufacturing something. Like, we need to get better surely at taking them off afterwards. And so maybe that's one of the things I'm kind of, and it's, I don't know how quickly it'll happen, but there's people starting to make their own pick and place machines. They're never going to be anywhere near as fast as the ones that Luke's got, but they're not supposed to be. They're supposed to let you do like a handful of boards and not have to worry too much about doing really detailed things. But then once the text for that, like some of what I like about the makerspace is, and when it's about the means of production, some of it's about being able to afford a laser cutter, but some of it is also about knowing how a laser cutter works enough to kind of maintain it and do bits to it and decide that actually this thing's a bit like a laser cutter or a bit like a 3D printer. Because I mean, like the pick and place machines are mostly coming out of the fact that people built 3D printers, and then they're kind of going, well, the 3D printer's just moving stuff in 3 dimensions, and like it then squirts out molten plastic. But why can't it have a little vacuum thing on it and move over here and pick up a component and move over there and put it down? And it's like it'll be really slow, but I don't care how fast or slow. And, you know, and so maybe there's that opportunity for people who care about this stuff to be kind of building those machines to help dismantle stuff, so that we can recycle more of it. Maybe at like a component level. That'd be like really interesting.
So Adrian mentioned tanks then, and at the moment, so one of the key parts on a PCB is capacitor. Typically, they're maybe 2 millimeters by 1 millimeter, and they cost about 0.01 of a penny. So you don't think about them normally during the manufacture of a product, but because this part has gone into such low supply, mainly because of the automotive industry adding tons more electronics to the cars, this part is maybe multiplied by a factor of 20 in price lately, and its availability has become extremely scarce. And it came as a big surprise to us, and it's put us in a very difficult position because there was very little forewarning that this was going to happen. So that's the challenge, is that it's very hard to know what thing will become short next. It's composite, I think, used in a capacitor.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly. It's tight. You get like ceramic capacitors and tantalum capacitors. So it's one of the materials in certain types of capacitor, I think. Yeah.
So that's the challenge. You don't know what you're going to run out of until it's too late after.
Thank you. We've got time for one last quick question, if anyone has one. Okay. Okay, great. If you could thank the speakers for a fantastic section. Yeah, you want to do a little advert?
Yes, totally. I want to do a little advert. So tomorrow is a maker, because it's Makefest, and there's loads of cool makers in Liverpool. I mean, there's loads of cool makers in Liverpool all the time, but there's even more than usual because people have come up for Makefest. We're in Does Liverpool, which is just off London Road, of the way. And we kind of figured, well, people are in town, we should do a thing on the Sunday so that they can kind of get together and chat amongst each other, rather than, I mean, it's great chatting to the public and talking about all this sort of stuff, but you often end up stuck on your stand and you don't get to go and talk to any of the people on any of the other stands. So tomorrow from 10 till 3 at Does Liverpool, we're having a maker brunch. It's like super informal, so just like turn up, we'll have some bacon, because Jackie's organised about things. I'd have been just going, oh no, Lidl doesn't open until 11, what are we going to do for an hour? But Jackie thinks about this stuff ahead of time. And pastries and some bits and pieces like that. So yeah, it'd be great to see more of you there. Thank you.
Just a quick advert. We are hiring as well if you want to talk to us at the end. Thanks.
Brain boxes. You want to advertise?
The whole thing was an advert.
Yeah, remember Jackie's maintenance event. Great, thank you everyone. So you are at Ignite Talks at Awesome Liverpool. The next session, which starts at, what time are we at? Is it 3 o'clock? Yeah, 3 o'clock in 20 minutes, is going to be about community. So come back at 3 o'clock for, have we got